destroy a people, you must first sever their roots. Racial themes aren't typically a topic you expect to see explored in anime. Attack on Titan is different. The series dives headfirst into racial conflict, and this, along with its action sequences and beautiful soundtrack, make it stand out in the anime sphere. All around, you can really see the heart that was put into this show. The series has received critical acclaim and worldwide popularity, but many seem to overlook some of the story's key messages. In this video, we'll be exploring the racial themes of Attack on Titan and discover what this anime teaches us about race. Before continuing, know that this video will include spoilers for the Attack on Titan anime and manga. Attack on Titan begins as a rather straightforward story. Humanity versus monsters called Titans. We're told that our protagonist's walled civilization is the last stand of mankind, and that the rest of the world has been wiped out by the Titan threat. The first several seasons focus on our main characters Eren, Mikasa, and Armin attempting to defeat the Titan onslaught. But as the story progresses, we're introduced to a shocking twist. Humanity outside of the walls has not been wiped out. In fact, it's alive and well. Our heroes are not the last of mankind, but are rather one of its various races. Their race is known as the Eldians, and where we've been for most of the series is actually an island isolated from the rest of the world. The reason that the Eldians are isolated and under attack by Titans is no accident. Rather, it's because the rest of mankind wants to wipe them out and take their island for themselves. The Titans this entire time have been other Eldians mutated using a serum. This cruel fate is enacted on them because the other races see them as devils.
島にいるのは世界を地獄にした悪魔だ。私たちには悪魔の血が流れているからね。パラディ島の悪魔を成敗すれば世界を救えるんだ。そしたら俺は世界一の自慢の息子になれるんだ。
The main race that now rules over mankind, the Marleyans, have set up an entire system of persecution targeting the Eldians. Besides tormenting our protagonists throughout the entire story by sending Titans to kill them, the Eldians that live within Marleyan civilization are also treated horrendously. They're kept in internment camps and taught since birth that their ancestors were evil. They're even required to wear designated armbands to let others know they're Eldians. Many viewers have noted clear similarities between Eldians wearing armbands and being kept in internment camps to Jews in concentration camps during World War II. However, upon learning more about the history of the Eldians and why their race is despised, their similarity with the Jewish people quickly ends. Instead, the Eldians share many more parallels to another real-life race. But before we explore which race that is, let's look at the history of the Eldians and see why exactly they're hated by the Marleyans. The history of the Eldians begins hundreds of years before Attack on Titan takes place. We're told that the original Eldians inherited magical powers that allowed them to conquer the world. This power is called the Power of the Titans. Using this strength that the rest of the world lacked, the Eldians conquered it and created a vast empire. Marleyan history teaches that during their reign, the Eldians called other races inferior and began to engage in eugenics. Eldians dominated for centuries and their power was unrivaled. Eventually, however, the Eldian Empire collapsed due to infighting and subversion from within. We're told that the Marleyans were key to this subversion. With the Eldian Empire in shambles, other races began to reassert themselves, and the Marleyans came to dominate the world in the fallen Eldians' place. The last king of the Eldian Empire flees with his people to the island of Paradise, and uses the Titan powers to build enormous walls. He makes a pledge of pacifism to never again fight the outside world. That takes us to the timeline of Attack on Titan. In the series, not only are the Eldians not on Paradise physically persecuted by the Marleyans, but they're also mentally tortured by being taught to be ashamed of their history. Ashamed Eldians pass this narrative on to their children, and they're told that the time that their people ruled was literally the Dark Ages.
娘を失った直後の父親にしては饒舌だった。ご主人様の言いつけを守り、危機として己の祖先を卑下する姿は犬さながらであった。
It should be noted here that it's heavily implied that the Marleyans have exaggerated the negatives of Eldian history in order to increase their own power at the Eldian expense. Eldian restorationists, for example, believe that entire sections of their history have been tampered with in order to demonize the Eldians and downplay the good that their people accomplished. With all of this in mind, it's clear that the race the Eldians share the most in common with is Europeans. While not a one-on-one exact comparison, the similarities are certainly clear. Both the Eldians and Europeans conquered the majority of the world in vast empires. They both ultimately had their empires collapse due to subversion from within and infighting amongst each other. Another obvious similarity is how Eldians have European features and European names. And it's very hard not to see similarities in how Eldians are taught to see their history as evil, and how people of European ancestry today are often taught to see their history. It's common practice in Western education systems to demonize European accomplishments and act as if their descendants are uniquely bad. Direct examples of this include the many different whiteness studies courses widespread in American and European universities.
We're demonizing white people for being born.
And are some of our students white people?
Yes.
Okay, so we're demonizing white kids. Why don't you just say it?
We are using language that makes them feel less than, for nothing that they are personally responsible for.
Negatives are amplified and positives downplayed or ignored. Popular media figures frequently attack European history, with some even asserting the white race is the cancer of human history. All of this has had the effect of dividing people of European ancestry into two main camps. Those who dislike their own race and strive to prove they're one of the good ones, and those who reject the demonization of their race. In Attack on Titan, there are two characters that exemplify these two conflicting viewpoints. The first is Gabby, and the second is Eren. These two characters have nearly opposite views of their people. Gabby is a young Eldian girl who's been trained and educated by Marley since birth to see her own race as devils, turn her into a literal soldier to go out and fight other Eldians on their behalf. Throughout Gabby's time in the show, she is utterly adamant in her hatred of other Eldians and refuses to even consider the possibility that they might be innocent. In one especially heart-wrenching scene, Kaya, an Eldian girl who witnessed her mother be eaten alive by a Titan, breaks down to Gabby. She demands to know why her mother deserved to suffer simply for accusations about her ancestors' history. Gabby tries to argue back, but in the end has no valid answer. Perhaps it isn't coincidence that Kaya has blonde hair and blue eyes. At another point, Gabby's companion Falco attempts to remove her armband that designates her as an Eldian. In response, she panics, as the armband and its meaning have become a part of her identity. In her mind, it's what separates her from the bad Eldians. This terror as being seen as one of the bad ones is a sentiment much like how American scholar Shelby Steele describes white guilt. He describes it is the terror, the literal terror of being seen as a racist. If you are seen as a racist, openly in public, you are ruined. This will never change until white America, and whites generally, become morally confident in themselves. Eldians who do not show shame in their race are also ruined. Grisha Yeager's 8-year-old sister Faye is mauled to death by dogs for being caught lounging outside of the internment zone. Grisha himself is later given the death penalty by the Marleyans for joining a pro-Eldian restorationist group. The message to the Eldians within Marleyan civilization is clear. Be ashamed of your race, or else. Gabby's character thus could represent the final stage of what a person becomes if they're never allowed to see the positives of their own people. They may even go to the lengths of fighting them simply to show they're one of the good ones. This is also apparent in Reiner, and it causes him to have mental breakdowns through the series as he slowly realizes the Eldians he's been taught to hate are actually his people. Ultimately, while Gabby's mindset is heinous, it's very hard to condemn her as a person. She's been raised to truly believe that she's fighting for a noble and just cause. The Marleyans who manipulated her deserve the blame. Once again, we can see things like this in real life. Today, polls show that whites identifying as liberal and moderate have the lowest scores of in-group preference of any racial group. In-group preference means the level of how positively you view your own race. White liberals are indeed the only racial group surveyed found to dislike their own race. Similarly to Gabby, Reiner, and Bertolt in Attack on Titan, they have been turned against their own people. They now work against them to show they're one of the good ones. Now, to Eren. Unlike Gabby, Eren grew up on the island of Paradise, not controlled by Marley, and remained unaware of the rest of humanity for most of his life. When he learns the truth about the Eldians' predicament and how the world is seeking to destroy them, he takes an entirely new path. Rather than surrender his people to certain doom, he chooses instead to fight Marley and restore Eldia to its past glory. He witnessed firsthand for the entire series the suffering that the Eldians within the walls had to endure simply to survive. Giving up on them was never an option. After Marley and most of its allies officially declare war on Paradise, Eren forms his own faction called the Yeagerists, and they seize control of Paradise's government. This is met with approval from most of the island's population. They may not have wanted this war, but the Marleyans' refusal to let them exist in peace has forced their hand. As the story goes on, some of Eren's actions cross into the morally gray, but we the audience are forced to ask ourselves if he has any other choice. Paradise is outnumbered, outgunned, and facing an enemy that wants their complete genocide. There is no simple solution to the conflict. One thing we can conclude from it all, though, is that Eren's desire to protect his people is justified. The narrative contrast between Gabby and Eren underscores why Attack on Titan is a great anime and one I really enjoyed. The series indicates how racial guilt based on past events brings nothing but misery. It's weaponized by those with power to divide and conquer a people that would otherwise believe in itself and have self-confidence. Attack on Titan states emphatically that peoples have a right to their own history, identity, and existence. And Eren's character shows that sometimes that right has to be bravely asserted even in the face of tremendous opposition. The Marleyans, in their fervent desire for vengeance against the Eldians, became just as tyrannical as they accused the Eldians of being in the past. They refused to even acknowledge the Eldians' right to exist and live peacefully amongst themselves. The kind of mental torture that Gabby, Reiner, and so many others experienced is something that no group of people deserves, in anime or real life. This is of course a far cry from modern Western media, which pushes anti-white racial libels in the same way Marleyans use anti-Eldian racial libels. It's interesting that anime of all places is where we can find these narratives challenged. There's word that's gone around that the creator of Attack on Titan, Hajime Isayama, has nationalist leanings. If this is true, it makes the themes of Attack on Titan even more meaningful. Thanks to everyone who recommended me this anime and watched this entire video. When I first asked about this series, I knew from the level of responses I got that it was going to be worth taking a look at. I'll be doing more anime analyses in the future, so if you enjoyed this, be sure to subscribe. Also, if you have recommendations or any other thoughts, please leave a comment.